Let's sit together with three Psalms today. Psalm 131, 132, and 133, because together they trace a movement of the soul toward God. Psalm 131 begins very simply. The psalmist says, I am not proud. I do not concern myself with things too great or too marvelous for me. That's a remarkable starting place in a world that rewards striving, proving, positioning. The psalmist steps back. He says, I have quieted my soul like a child with its mother, not a restless child, not a demanding child, a quieted child. There is trust here. There is rest here. There is a willingness to simply be present before God. And then comes the invitation. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time forth and forevermore. So Psalm 131 grounds us in humility, in stillness, in trust. Then we move to Psalm 132. Now the tone shifts from inward to historical. Remember David. Remember his struggles. Remember his devotion. Remember his longing to make a place for God. This psalm is about covenant. It is about promise. David made promises to God, but more importantly, David received promises from God. God made promises to David, and God does not forget. That's the heart of Psalm 132. God remembers, God establishes, God fulfills. So we have moved from a quiet soul to a remembered promise. And then we arrive at Psalm 133. And here everything comes together. How good and how pleasant it is when brothers dwell together in unity. This is not just a moral statement, it's a theological one. Unity is not just nice, it is sacred. And the psalmist reaches for images. It is like the precious oil upon the head, running down upon the beard. That image may feel distant to us, but it is an image of anointing, of consecration, of God's presence flowing abundantly, not sparingly, not carefully measured, flowing. And then the second image. It is like the dew of Mount Hermon falling on the mountains of Zion. Now, this is fascinating. Mount Hermon is far to the north, Zion is to the south. And yet the psalmist connects them. Why? Because Hermon represents life. It captures moisture in a dry land. Its snow melts and feeds the Jordan. Where that water flows, life grows. So to speak of the dew of Hermon is to speak of freshness, provision, sustained life. And the psalmist says unity is like that, brings life. It sustains life. It nourishes everything around it. And then comes the conclusion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing, life forevermore. Notice that word, there. Where is there? There is where souls are quieted. Psalm 131. There is where promises are remembered. Psalm 132. There is where people dwell together in unity. Psalm 133. That is where God commands the blessing. So the movement becomes clear. Humility leads to trust. Trust anchors us in God's promises. And that foundation makes unity possible. And where that kind of life exists, God does not merely suggest a blessing, he commands it. Life forevermore. So let me leave you with this question. Where do you see the dew of God in your life? In quiet moments? In remembered faithfulness? In relationships marked by unity? God is not the mountain. He's the maker of the mountain, and he still sends the dew, fresh, daily, life-giving.